Rabotai, one of our friends in the community asked us a good question. He's going on vacation. You know, it's cold over here now, so everybody wants to go to a place where it's warm. So everybody's going down south, you know, Florida, some islands over there, Bahamas, God knows, whatever, Mexico, right? All kinds of places. So the question is, his wife tells me like this, right, that she's going to be going to the mikveh at that time because it's going to be time for her mikveh night. Problem is, over there in that place, there's no mikveh, right? So it's an island, no mikveh over there. She has to be with her husband, you know. So the question is, what do you do? So, you know, she called up some lady over there who's a Rebbitzin over there, Rabbanit, maybe from Chabad or something, whatever. So the lady told her, no problem, you know. What I'll do is, I'll go with you to the ocean, you know, to the beach. I'll go with you together inside the water, and I'll watch you, you know, going into the water, and you can do the mikveh in the ocean, in the beach. That's what she told her, right? So, okay, that's good. So now, right, this lady comes to me and says, but you know what? The rabbi says, I'm really afraid to do this. You know, she's afraid of it. Why is she afraid? Because the halacha says, in the Masechet Megillah, over there, the Mishnah, it says that the mikveh of the woman has to be at night. Not like the man, right? The man can go to the mikveh anytime he wants. He can go in the daytime, he can go in the nighttime, just a minhag. When it comes to the woman who's going to mikveh for nidah, it has to be at nighttime. This is the halakha, you know? They cannot go in the daytime. There's many reasons for that. I don't want to get into it now. This halakha is a little bit complicated, but the point is, right, that she has to go at night. So she says, what am I going to do? Going at night into the beach over there, you know, some island, maybe some shark will come and bite me over there. God knows. God forbid, need I look, right? You know, she's afraid to go into the water when it's dark. You know, you can't blame her. I mean, you know, it's scary. You know, you go to the beach at night, nobody's there. You know, there's no lights, nothing, no lifeguard. You know, you just go into the water. And she says also, I don't know how to swim. You know, so it says, what am I going to do? You know, just go into the water. You know, I could drown over there. These are good questions, you know. So the question is, what do you do in a case like that? This is what she asked me. So I said, okay, no problem. You know, there's a solution for everything. You know, if you know a little bit in halakha, you do your research, you go into the books, right, and you see there's a solution for everything. Yeah, but usually, Baruch Hashem, there's no problem. You know. So what did I tell her? You know, the way it's done is like this. First of all, right, there's no mikveh there, so there's no choice. You have to go to the beach. There's nothing else you can do. You know. Unless you want to delay your mikveh night, you know, wait till you get back to the States. You know, if you want to do that, that's fine. But, you know, what about if you want to be with your husband right away? And it's a mitzvah, by the way, right? There's a mitzvah to be with your husband right away, the night of the mikveh night, and not to wait, you know, not to delay. It's not a good thing to delay. There are many problems that come from this, you know, from delaying the mikveh night. So therefore, you know, not a good idea to do this in general, unless there's a very, very, very good reason that has to be done. You know, otherwise, very bad. Another thing that Maran told us, Maran Al-Wadia, is that when you delay the mikveh night, what happens is that the Yetzer Hara gets very big, you know, for the man, you know. He can't be with his wife, he has to wait more. He already waited as it is 2 weeks, you know, now he waited. 12 days he waited. Now he's got to wait another week, you know, so what's going to be left for him? You know, nothing, you know, what's the point, right? So it's a big Yetzer Hara for the man, you know, to wait for his wife until she goes to the mikveh later on. Another week, what do we another week? It was already 2 weeks already. So that's not a good thing to do, right? To delay it like that, unless there's no choice. Unless they both agree, you know, the spouses, right? The husband and wife, they both agree. If they both agree to delay it, and, you know, they have a good reason for it, no problem, okay. But, you know, sometimes that's not like that. So what I want to tell you is like this, right? So what do you do? So the problem that she had regarding, you know, going to the beach at night, you know, actually it's really, it's a real issue. So what I told her is like this, you know, that a woman, as we said, right, has to go to the mikveh at night. That's the halakha. But it doesn't mean that she has to go, you know, after Rabbeinu Tam. You know what I mean? So what does that mean? Rabbeinu Tam, you know, it's 72 minutes after Shkiat HaChalma, right? So it's going to be like, you know, today, right? Rabbeinu Tam is going to be like 6:05, 6:10. It's going to be pitch dark already at that time. We don't want that. That's not what we want. So what we want to do is like this, right? That after, I told her like this, after Shkiat HaChalma, after the sun goes down, even though there's still light outside, you can now go to the mikveh that's at this time. What's the reason for that? Because when it comes to the laws of Nidah, we don't measure the night according to, you know, like what we do for Shabbat, you know, 45 minutes, or like the Ashkenazim do, or like we do, you know, Rabbeinu Tam, or whatever. all these things. You know, you don't have to go that far. When it comes to the laws of Nidah, right after the sun goes down, it's considered to be already the next day. It's already considered to be night for the halachot of Nidah. So therefore, the sun goes down right away after that. Once you see, right, you're watching on the beach, the sun going down, no problem, right? Once it goes down, you can go already in the water and do the tefillah. This is the thing, you know? So there's still light, so you don't have to be scared, you know? You have plenty of light still, you know, for another 20 minutes or so. There's no problem, right? For a half hour, you still have more light. So you can go, you don't have to be scared, you know? But when I told her, you know, there are some, but, you know, when you do this kind of a thing, you use the beach as a mikveh, you have to know several things about this, you know, how to do it properly, because there are certain issues that come up with this. I'll explain to you what the issues are. There are several issues. One, first of all, is like this, you know, that a person who goes to the beach, sometimes it could be over there, there's like clay, you know, like teeth, you know, mud on the floor. You know, like wet stuff, like very, very gooey, you know, teeth over there, mud. Clay, you know, thick clay, like, you know, this kind of thing. So if you have this kind of thing, you're going to have a problem with your feet. You know why? Because when you get the clay on your feet, you know, it's going to be chatzitza, it's going to interpose between the water and the feet. So this is going to be a problem, you know. So if a person is going to a place where, on the beach, you know, where there's clay over there, usually it's not like that, usually just sand, you know, like regular, you know, it's not usually not so bad. But if you have a place like that, where it's clay and mud, you know, things like this, so what you have to do is, you should go in with some sandals, you know, some beach sandals, you know. This way, your feet won't touch the clay. You know, this is the way to do it, right, to avoid this problem. So what you do is you put on some loose sandals, you know, like they wear on the beach, you know, those loose ones, you know, those things, right, those rubber ones. You know, they're not tight, so the water can get in there, there's no problem, you know. So this is the way you do it. So regarding what she said, that she can't swim, you know, so I told her, I said, no problem, who told you to swim? Anybody asked you to swim? All you have to do is just go in the water, you know what I mean? And dunk your head inside, that's all. You know, who asked you to swim? You just gotta stand there, you know? But the truth is, you know, that you have to understand the one thing. A lot of people, by the way, make this mistake. When they go to the mikveh, a lot of people, you know, they have this misconception, which is really like, sometimes it's funny. They think that when you go into the water, you have to like jump, you know? So your feet should get, you know, the water inside. You know what I mean? You have to jump up like this, you know? Is that true, by the way? Anybody know? And the answer is no. You don't have to jump. There's no reason to jump there. What's the reason why? The reason is because when you went into the mikveh, the first second, your feet already got wet, right? So then once you stepped on the floor, you know, your feet were already wet. So therefore the wetness of the feet combines with the mikveh, you don't have to jump anymore. So all you gotta do is make sure your whole body gets in, you know, but there's no reason to be jumping around, you know, like some kind of a SUV, you know, jumping. There's no reason for that. You don't have to jump. All you have to do is just get in there, but make sure everything gets in, you know. So now, regarding making sure that everything gets in. So, you know, as we said, right, for a man to go to the mikveh is just a minhag. No big deal, you know. So we're not so medakdek about every you know, prat of the halakha, every detail of the halakha. We're not so strict about these things. You know, just a minhag. When it comes to women, this is isur karet, you know. This is a big deal. You know what I mean? If a woman doesn't go to the mikveh, she didn't do the mikveh properly, and she went with her husband, karet, they have karet, both of them, Shem Yirachem, you know? And the children are going to come out to be also damaged, you know? Shem Yirachem. With all kinds of damage, with all kinds of pagumim. That's what happens, right? You got to be careful about that, you know? Make sure that you understand that, you know, you're playing with life and death, you know, when your wife goes to the mikveh. If she doesn't go, you got a big problem, you know? You gotta make sure she goes. You know, whatever it takes, right, to convince her. I don't know, buy her some gifts. I don't know, whatever it is, right. Make sure she has yirat shamayim. She has to be a God-fearing woman. You know, that's the thing, right. Otherwise, she won't go. You know, I remember one lady told me you know, from our community. I spoke to like an older lady, you know, babushka, you know, when I was a young kid, and she told me like this. She said, you know what? She said, you know, when I got married, the first night, you know, that we got married, I went to the mikveh, you know, because that, like, they made me go. You know, they make you go, right? The rabbis, you know, they make sure you go. You know what I mean? But then afterwards, she says, I never went to the mikveh again in my life after that, the first time that we got married. Can you imagine? Never went to the mikveh. All her life she was nidah, you know? So she was bringing a B'nai Nida into the world, Shem Menachem. What a big sin, and all his children are damaged because of this. By the way, the question is like this. You want to hear an interesting question? One time I discussed this with one of the Rabbanim in Yerushalayim, one of the big Chachamim, who had a question. His question was like this. If a person, was born Ben Nida, from a mother who didn't go to the mikveh, so the question is, okay, that damages him. It does damage to him. So he becomes pagum. He's damaged. But the question is, how long does this damage stay? So one of the Chachamim told me in Yerushalayim, he says, I think the damage stays forever. You know what I mean? In other words, for all generations. Like Mamzer, Mamzer goes forever, right? So same thing also, even Esed Dorot, right? He says, I think that it goes forever, the Tumah of Nida. Goes forever, for all generations. So what does that mean? Even after 20 generations, still this person is, pagum. He's still damaged because of this, what his great-great-grandmother did before 20 generations. So the truth is, I didn't really have a source to show him, but I knew that he wasn't right about this. No, it cannot be like this. It doesn't make sense. So the truth is, afterwards in the Zohar Kadosh, I saw exactly he talks about this, the Zohar Kadosh. So you know what it says in the Zohar Kadosh? It says that if a person transgressed the laws of Nida and brought a children, like this, who are B'nai Nida, it lasts for 3 generations. That's what it goes for 3 generations. So what does that mean? The child will be damaged. His child will be, will be damaged also, even if his wife goes to mikveh. But then the 3rd generation will be already clean. The grandson, right? That's the thing, So after the 3rd generation, it gets totally cleansed. That's what it says in the Zohar Kadosh. And this is very similar, right, to, they say, by the way, the same thing goes also with a ger, That a ger who converts, there's also some tumah, that goes with him. Not all the tumah from the ger gets removed from him when he converts. A little bit of it stays. So the question is, how long does it take to remove that? If the ger now marries, a regular Jew, has children, how long will it take to get rid of this tumah of the ger? Right? So here also, it says in the Zohar Kadosh, it's 3 generations. So what does that mean? That the ger will be what he is, and then his son also, and then the grandson will be 100% pure. Right? That's it. 100% clean. Where do we see this, by the way, in the Torah? It's written also in the Torah, right? What does it say? Ger Edomi, Ger Mitzri, right? Edomi and Mitzri, 3rd generation. Until the 3rd generation, they can't marry into the community. So that's the remez, right? We have a little bit of a remez over there. A little bit of illusion. So it takes 3 generations to cleanse this problem, But getting back to what we're talking about, right? We're not talking about this issue so much, but anyway, right? Getting back to what we're saying. So what we're saying is like this, right? That she doesn't need to swim, as we said. Why? Because all you have to do is just walk in. Walk into the water, and dunk your head. But the thing is, here also, there's an issue. So this lady, who was probably from Chabad, I don't know, something, right? Some Rebbitzin over there, that place, right? Chabad is everywhere, right? They have a station everywhere in the world. You can't go any place in the world without Chabad, right? So also there, this lady's there. So she told him, I'll go to the water with you together. So the question is, what? She went there into the water just to make sure she's not scared? No, that's not the only reason, right? There's also another reason. Which is that what? It says in the Shulchan Aruch that when you go into the mikveh, the woman goes to the mikveh, there has to be somebody watching her, when she goes into the water. Why is that? Because we have to make sure that everything gets in, all the hairs. Even one hair should not stay out. The women have long hair, how it is, right? Until the, until the wall, they have hair, some ladies, They open it up, and you see, right? It's like goes down to her feet sometimes, So they have very long hair. So you have to make sure that every hair gets into the mikveh. Even if one hair didn't go in, pasul, not good, right? So you got to make sure that everything goes in. This is the reason why she needed that lady to go with her. This is the whole thing. Otherwise, who's going to watch her, right? So the question, or also her husband can go as well, right? If, let's say she doesn't have a lady, there's no Chabad over there, right? It's a miracle, no Chabad. So what do you do in a case like that? Your husband should go with you, right, to the water, inside the water, and what he's going to watch you, make sure all your hairs go in, right? All your everything gets in at the same time. It has to go in at one time. The whole thing, right? The head, the hair, the arms, everything at one time, not separately. One after the other. You can do that with Haggalah. When you're kashering utensils that have become treif, so you can put them separately. Like half first, then half the other half. You can do that. But when it comes to mikveh, everything has to go together, in one shot. That's the only way to do it, right? So this is the way it's done also here, regarding the thing. So yeah, I'm sorry. Yes.
Does she have to be called when she goes?
Oh, you exactly reminded me to say. Now I was going to just talk about that. Good. Thanks for your reminder. So, very important question he's asking, right? Which is what? How do you go to the beach, right? The truth is, it says in Shulchan Aruch also that a woman who goes to the mikveh, she has to be tzanua. What does that mean, tzanua? People shouldn't be watching her. It's not a public spectacle. Some kind of gamopena. It's not like that. It has to be tzanua. So nobody should be seeing her. So how do you go to the beach, and nobody's watching you there? There's always people at the beach, right? So, usually, that's what it is, right? There's always somebody there. So how are you going to go to the beach and be tzanua and do it, but tzniut, with modesty? How are you going to do that? So the answer is like this, sometimes there is no way, but there's a solution for that. Right? Like I said, there's a solution for everything. So I'll tell you guys something interesting, right? When we do the conversions downstairs, for the gerim, what we do is, we don't want to, we're over there bet din, three rabbis or whatever, right? Standing and watching this whole thing, right? That's the way it is. That you need a bet din for a conversion. You can't do conversion with one rabbi. It has to be 3 people there. 3 kosher people, right? That's the idea, right? So what we do is, we don't want to see this lady, going to the mikveh, it's not sanua, it's not tzniut. So what do? How do we solve the problem? So the truth is, the poskim in our time have written, Man Rabbi also, he writes this, the way to do it is like this, we put on some loose robe, on her, some, right, and she goes in with the robe. This is the way it's done today. The common practice is like this, So what's the idea? The idea is like this, right, that when the robe is loose, the water goes in everywhere, no problem, there's no issue. Only when the clothing is very tight, it won't go in. If it's really, really tight, it won't go in maybe, it's possible. But if it's normal, loose clothing, then it really should go, especially if it's a loose robe, it definitely will go in everywhere, So that's what you should do. You should put on a loose robe, and, for fat ladies, one of those fat lady robes, right? Something like that, right? And she puts it on, and she goes in this way, right? She's not bilti tzanua, she's not naked. Like, we don't see any part of her body. She can go in totally covered. So there's no problem with watching her body and this and that. So now, right, also another thing, which is, what about her hair? So the thing is with the hair, as we said, right, that somebody has to watch to make sure all the hair gets in. But let's say you don't have anybody, right? We were just discussing that. So what do you do then, right? You don't have anybody. So what they do is like this, they put like a loose cap, like a setka, like a net. You can cover her hair with like a loose net or a loose cap. This way, right, make sure that all the hairs will get in this way. She doesn't have to be so careful because it's all closed. But it has to be loose, not so tight. And then she goes in like that and the water gets in, That's what happens. So this is the way to do it. If a person has an issue like this, with the mikveh and there's no place to go with the mikveh. So this is the way it's done, and this way, right, you have no problems. So as we said, right, that, it has, I was also asked, by the way, when I posted this on social media, they asked me a good question, which is, okay, you talked about the beach, right, because you're talking about some island, some kunzuli, in the Caribbean somewhere. Okay, that's one thing, but what about if you go to a place where there's no beach? And there's also no mikveh, So what about, can you go into a lake? Or can you go into a spring? Or can you go into a river? Right? This is the question, right? So the truth is, this is the lake is it's no problem whatsoever. Why? Because the lake is like an ocean, just a small ocean, basically that's what it is. There's a big ocean and there's a small ocean, So the lake is just a small version of the ocean, of the sea, right? That's the idea. So there's no problem with the lake whatsoever. A person needs to go into a lake to immerse over there. That can be done. No issue with that, right? Also, spring. What does that mean, spring? That means like fresh water is coming out of the ground, gushing out. That's considered to be, by the way, you should know, the best mikveh, is the spring, is the mayan, right? That's the best one. So nothing better than that, right? So not only it's kosher, but it's the not kosher, right? When it comes to the spring, it's the best way to do it, right? Mayim chaim, That's the thing. But what about the river? So here with the river, there's an issue. I don't want to get too long. I'll do Arit, but Hashem, just give you a short rundown, right? When it comes to the river, there's an issue going on over there, which is what? That the water in the river is moving all the time. It's not stagnant. It's not standing still. So there, what happens is that the rabbis made a takana, chachamim, that you shouldn't use rainwater, which is moving, because it resembles katafres. It resembles a certain problem that there is in halakha. So therefore, if you have rainwater, which is moving, flowing, right, you're not allowed to use that for mikvah. The rabbis made a gezerah like this, So then, what the issue is like this, when it comes to the river, sometimes, it says in the Gemara, in the Talmud, it says, sometimes the rove of the river, the majority of the river, is rainwater because, there was a lot of rain lately. So if that's the case, it's a rainy season, like in the winter, whatever, there's a lot of rain going on there, So most of the water in the river is rainwater. So there, if that's the case, it's a problem, You cannot go in there. You cannot go in there to do your mikveh. Right? As we said, right, the men can go, because the men anyway, we're not so medakdek with them. It's only minhag. So with the men, no problem. When it comes to the women, right, they should not go in a case like that. That's what it says in the Talmud, where but the majority of the water in the river is rainwater. So then when can you go? Only in the season where the majority of the water is spring water, coming from the ground. Then you can go. This is the thing, So the problem is that sometimes we don't know, like it's safek, we don't know what's going on, So therefore, the truth is, that the river is the last resort. In other words, to use a river is the last resort. You don't want to get into this question, So a person should only go into a mikveh, the river, if there's no other choice, whatsoever, The truth is, that it says in the Ramah, the Shulchan Aruch, that the Ashkenazim, they used to use the river for mikveh in Europe. What's the reason why? Yeah, but we just said, right, it's not really so good. So they, what they say? They say that they had no choice over there in Europe. They had no beach over there, right? Most places there was no beach. Sometimes there's no lake either. So what happens is that you have no choice but to go to the river, So there, the point is like this, right? That since only this prohibition is the Rabbanan, it's not from the Torah, it's from the rabbis. So therefore, when there was no choice, when it comes to the Ashkenazim in Europe, they used to use the river also for the women. There was no choice. So they used to use it. Because there's also another opinion that says that you're allowed to do that. So they relied on the minority opinion because they had no choice, But we have a choice, that we have a mikveh, we have the beach, right? All kinds of things. So a person should not use the river, lechatchila, to do mikveh. Whether it's the woman or the kelim, to put kelim in there, to kasher the kelim. So what should you do? Go to the beach, right? Go to Rockaway Beach, I don't know, God knows, whatever, right? If you don't have a mikveh, and do it over there. Baruch Adonai le'olam, amen, amen. רבי חנן, אתה שומע? שקדוש ברוך הוא זכות זה, להביא לך אפילו בוא להם תור מצוות, שנתנו לחפץ, למען צדקו יגדיר תורה וידיר.